Hello there. Well, it's October, and with the days getting colder and the leaves falling to the ground, it's time to go into the season of the witch, and to do that, we're going to start with the film franchise that is its namesake. The first 4 films, anyway. John Carpenter's Halloween was a film that really changed the landscape of the horror film. It wasn't the first slasher film to make waves, nor was it the first centered around a holiday. 4 years earlier, there was Bob Clark's Black Christmas, which also gained terror from suspense rather than gore. However, Halloween was such a phenomenal success, it led to the creation of Friday the 13th and other slasher films that sought to copy its formula, most of which didn't even come close. And I have a personal theory as to why. A lot of my favorite slasher films managed to be scary, not necessarily because of how bloody the monster looks, how much gore gushes out of somebody being stabbed. They prove to be scary and intense because I care about the victims. Most slasher films are just content to make them one-dimensional stereotypes who are there just to be killed in creative ways. However, films like Scream, Child's Play, Black Christmas, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Cabin in the Woods, Psycho, Prom Night, and of course, Halloween, were able to build suspense because they created fully interesting characters who we don't want to see get murdered. When Michael Myers walks creepily and slowly towards protagonist Laurie Strode in Halloween, that's a legitimately frightening moment, as it's hard not to shout, "Come on!" at the screen. And there are plenty of moments like that in the feature. Kudos to not only Carpenter, but his co-writer Deborah Hill for creating these tense scenes and fully realized characters. Even Myers, as simple as his backstory is, has a lot going for him. The scene where he kills a teenager just tilts his head as like an animal looking at its prey. It's just so creepy and scary. The cinematography also deserves a lot of credit for this, as it really evokes the right tone through the whole piece, and even the daytime scenes have a chilliness to them. In every single scene, Myers is just around the corner and not knowing when he will strike can sometimes be more scary than the moment of impact. Another key element of the terror in Halloween is Carpenter's minimalist score. Though he had no idea how to write a musical score, he managed to compose an unforgettable and iconic piece of music that creeps into your mind, and it's hard not to think of it when walking down the dark streets on an October night. One aspect that tends to get overlooked in horror films is acting, as most producers just hire any struggling waitress in Hollywood just because they look pretty. However, in the case of Jamie Lee Curtis, they managed to make Laurie a strong character, and she brought a certain humidity to her role. Donald Pleasance also brought plenty of depth to his role as Dr. Loomis, and you really feel his desperation as he tries to hunt down Michael Myers. He's the only character who knows what happened with Michael from the night he got sent to the institution to when he escaped. However, even he is not 100% sure why Michael killed his sister on a Halloween night many years prior. It's that air of mystery to the Michael character that further adds to how frightening he is. But when something is stalking you in the darkness, you don't know his backstory either. It's all these careful considerations that help make Halloween one of the greatest horror films of all time. Following the massive success of Halloween, the producers were instantly interested in milking the property for a sequel. Despite John Carpenter not being fond of the idea, he co-wrote the screenplay with Hill, and the result was a sequel that I felt lost so much of what made the first film so amazing. Taking place on the exact same night as the events in the first Halloween, this one has Myers slicing and dicing anybody like Jason Voorhees, and the screen is even filled to the brim with gore. He walks about just performing random killings without any semblance of fright. Liking any of the suspense that made the John Carpenter original so terrific, this sequel is just another dead teenager movie. It's not helped by how Laurie and Dr. Loomis have their strong characters taken away completely, with Laurie turning into a whimpering coward and Loomis running around like a crazy person. Even Carpenter's iconic score became more annoying than chilling. It's shocking that this has the same writers as the first one, because there is very little here invoking the excellence of Halloween. Following Halloween 2, John Carpenter pretty much put the cap on Michael Myers, but with the producers begging for Halloween 3, he decided to take the series in an entirely different direction. Carpenter decided to turn it into an anthology series by having each film be a new story with new characters set on Halloween. Thus, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was born. On its initial release, it did poorly as fans complained about having nothing to do with the first two. In fact, it doesn't even exist in the same universe, as the first film is shown on the television set at one point. However, over the years, it's gained more of a cult audience, of which I'm not a part of, since I strongly dislike this too, but not because of the lack of Myers. I actually thought turning Halloween into an anthology series was a creative one on Carpenter's part. I just found Season of the Witch to be ridiculous rather than scary. The story, which could have been a commentary on the power of advertising and how much a holiday has changed from its original meaning, is like something out of a lesser episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? As such, there was never a point where I took it seriously. The poor acting didn't help matters much either, and the characters are all one-developed and as cliché as you can get in most horror films. It all culminates in a very silly ending, and this just proved a major disappointment to me. With the failure of Halloween 3, the producers wanted to bring back Michael Myers, and so out went Carpenter and Hill. With Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, the series went back to basics, and even though it again doesn't reach the incredible heights of the first one, I quite like this one. Unlike Halloween 2, the sequel thankfully doesn't descend into Friday the 13th level stupidity. Director Dwight Little understood what made the first one so fantastic and keeps the suspense high in this one. The two leads are likable, with young Danielle Harris doing especially great work, so it makes it even more worrisome when Michael comes creeping towards them. Donald Pleasance just kind of stumbles around with a little direction, but nonetheless the film as a whole delivers the right level of fright and respects what John Carpenter laid down. The final scene is certainly one that delivers chills and would have led to an interesting direction for the series. But apparently future installments I'd just stick with the same old formula, and I thus haven't seen the other Halloween films. But we're only in the beginning of October. See you next time as I look at a franchise that tries to mime scares out of tiny fish.